All right, so it's come to my attention that I might be a little loud in some of my other videos, so I'm trying to turn the gain down on my microphone. Let's see if this works better. So today I want to show you how to create a design on a T-shirt template that I've provided, but also what we're looking at is how to prepare something to be put on a shirt if you were using a vinyl cutter for a heat press or if you were just making stickers. It's the same techniques apart from whether or not you reflect it, okay? So bring myself up here. I want to be up there. There we go. All right, so this is a template that I have. A couple of different things going on here. One thing you can do, so I've got my designs, and just a little word of caution. One of the number one things I get people to do when they have a template like this is they try to fill up the entire space on the shirt, okay? So unless you're doing direct-to-garment sublimation printing where you can print on the whole shirt, you really don't have that option very much, all right? You could do it if you piece some of the heat transfer together, but then you're limited. You're going to be limited by how big your board is, okay? So even if you have vinyl on a roll, you're still going to be limited by how wide it is, and then you're going to be limited by how big your heat press is, okay? So your average person is going to have a board that is, say, 15 by 15 inches, so you're not going to be able to do something like that, all right, unless you print it and then move the shirt up and print it again, all right? So just kind of keep that in mind. Keep in mind what the limitations of your machines are. And if you're screen printing, you have the same limitations with how big your board is. It's even more of a limitation because moving it and trying to print it again is going to be much harder, if not impossible, depending on your design. Okay, so just kind of keep in mind your limitation on size. This is actually here to give you a little bit of perspective that something more like that might be better. Okay, so I also have, I was going to show you that you can use, so if I wanted to change the color of my shirt on this template, I could just click this and change my color. Problem is that changes everything. It changes the black outline and everything. So I don't want to do that. I want to just select all of the white. Now I could go in here, double click to go into the group, hold down shift, click on all these different pieces. Oh my gosh, it's going to take forever. Or I could use the magic wand. All right, so I'm going to go over here to my magic wand, and you just click. What the magic wand does is it's going to take everything that you selected in the entire document that fits those parameters. So if I say I want all the shapes that are white, it's going to look at the entire document. So right now it's going to work for me, but be careful because if you have other things, it might get those things too, all right? And so you might want to, sometimes I get around this by grouping things, but that's another story. So if you go to Magic Wand and just click, now it selected everything that was that color, including, you see it picked up this little white box that I had up here. All right, so if I wanted to change the color, I could change the color to something else like that. Or if I wanted to use my eyedropper tool, the eyedropper tool is going to pick up whatever you click on. It's going to apply that color or those properties, whether it's the font, the color, whatever properties it can apply to this, it will apply. So if you have text selected and you click on some other text, it'll apply the font, the size, all of that, okay? But in this situation, it's just the color. So we use Magic Wand to select all of it, and then I can use the eyedropper tool, which is right here, to say, I want to look at, what does it look like if I use this sandstone color? What does it look like if I use this light blue? What does it look like if I use this athletic gray? Well, that athletic gray is not going to be athletic gray. It's just picking up that one pixel that I clicked on, okay? So it's not going to copy that whole template, all right? So that looks fine. I like that. Everything's fine here, all right? And so if you go over here, I've got another space. This box over here is an artboard that I have made that is 13.5 by 13.5, okay? The reason that I do that is because our average vinyl that we use in my class is 15 inches wide, and I want to have it where you have a little bit of room on each side, okay? But if you're using a Cricut or a Silhouette and you're watching this video, then you want to make sure your artboard is set up to be the correct size. But just remember, you don't necessarily have, if it's 15 inches worth of material, you don't have 15 inches of material. You want to have some margin in case it runs off the side there. And different machines work differently, so what that margin needs to be might be different based on what you're doing. So I'm going to change the size of this, and I'm holding down Shift as I scale it. And if you see that little gray box that pops up to the side there, I can see that as I drag out, this right now is 12 inches high by almost 8 inches wide, okay? So I think that'll work for me for what I need to do, okay? That's going to be 12 inches tall, and so that's going to fit pretty well where I want it to. All right, so the last thing I need to do before I'm ready to cut this, because this is vector, I've already image traced it, I've already got it, and we've got other videos talking about that. The last thing I have to do before I output this is right click, I've got it selected, right click, transform, reflect. And I'm going to reflect it vertically and just hit OK. All right. If you do not do that step, the vinyl cutter, when you're doing heat press, the vinyl cutter cuts from this side and it's cutting it in reverse. Right. So then when you put it on the shirt, it looks correct. Okay. When you cut doing vinyl, if you're just doing a sticker, that cuts from the top of the surface. So you don't have to reflect it if you're doing it on vinyl, on heat press. I'm sorry. And then if your design is symmetrical, so if you're doing like a heart or something like that, it doesn't matter, okay? If it's perfectly symmetrical down the line there, then it doesn't matter, okay? Last thing that I wanted to add here, so we talked about how to select things, how to change the color based on our template, how to make things be the correct size, and that's very important that you make sure things are the correct size before you send them to be cut, okay? Last thing I want to show you is if you are doing text, okay? So all of that text over there was based on vector designs that I already had, and we had it image traced, okay? This is text that I typed out. Now, text that you type out can be a problem because when you send it to another person, they may not have that text in the format that they need, right? They may not have that font downloaded on their computer, all right? So you need to make sure that you send them text that you've already done create outlines on, okay? So on this, we're going to right-click, create outlines, and now it basically views it like objects. Okay, so this is now an object. I'm in outline mode there. All right. The problem with this is now I don't have the ability to change it. After you do create outlines, I'll do Control Z to go back. All right. After you do create outlines, see right now if I said, oh no, I misspelled a word, then I can go back and I can change those pieces, right? Or if I said, you know what, I'd rather have it be centered, I can go up here and click to the Align Center. And I can make that be centered. If I want to change any of my tracking or kerning or what font it is or any of that stuff, I can do that while it's still text. But once I do right-click Create Outlines, it is no longer text. I can't click on it to go change it because it's now viewed as an object. Now, I can change it like this if I said I want to put that more like that, or if I want to make this be bigger. So sometimes it actually gives you more flexibility, all right, when you do something like this, okay? So it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, all right? And so then there again, now that I have this as a vector design where I did create outlines, I can bring it over here to my artboard. Let me move this out of the way. I can bring it over here to my artboard. Average size for something on a front print, if I was doing something like this, I'd want it to be somewhere around, I don't know, 12.5 inches, something like that, 12.5 inches. Okay, so as I'm dragging it out, you can see that gray box pop up, and that puts my width at about 11.5. So that'll work for me. Right-click, transform, reflect. Okay? Only thing that I didn't really cover here that I will just warn you about is if you are doing a color separation, like let's say that I've got my text, and then there's something behind it or something that lines up with it. As you move things over and you resize them, make sure you resize that as a group, because if you go, here's my yellow, let me move it and change the size of it. Here's my red, and let me move it and change the size of it separately. It's very unlikely that you'll get that to match up exactly. All right, so make sure that before you do your color separation, and that's a whole other topic, but when you do your color separation, before you separate things, you make sure that you have it the correct size that you want, because if you separate and then change the size, it's going to turn into problems, okay? All right, so hope that helps.